Are you able to hear my fan sound? Is it giving any disturbance?
No, sir.
Right. Okay. So let's go to the mainframe now. In the last class, we have seen a creation of the data set, creation of the cluster. Actually, we can also create a dot data dot index components along with this. That means name of the cluster. Okay, and also you give a data component, index component. But generally, we don't create a data index. If you create only cluster, okay, based on the data set type, it will create dot data dot index automatically with an extension of a dot data dot index. That's why normally we don't create a dot data dot index components explicitly. It will be automatically created if you create a cluster. Okay. So let me revisit all the points here. Actually, we thought of creating a 40 bytes, right? The layout is of 40 bytes. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I deleted that layout. Deleted the layout. Let me create the layout once again because the copybook is required. 01 student record 02 student key, that 03 batch number 9 of 2 03 roll number picture 9 of 3 and 02 print name picture x of 10 02 student status picture x of 1. So do you remember what are the fields? Fee amount, course name, 02 fee amount,
Fee amount.
paid amount. These are fields. So 5 plus 10, 15, 16, 26. Yeah, exactly. Let me save it first of all. It's saved now. And actually, I created with a different length here, 100, 100. But now, how to delete and define it? First, you delete it. This is important interview question. How do you delete and define a cluster? Delete the cluster name. Don't give a cluster. Delete cluster name. Okay. In case the cluster is not there, it's already deleted, but you're trying to delete once again. So in that case, we get a max is 8, which is not correct. So in that case, what we do is we set max is equal to 0. Do you remember? I used the set max is while checking the condition parameters. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
ID comes with a okay
Yes, sir.
set max is. So I'm trying to delete the data set. I'm trying to delete the data set. Okay, 1 second. I'm trying to delete this data set. But if the data set is not there, we get a return code 8. So to resolve it, we give a set max is 0. This is called a del def. We call it as a del def. Delete and define step. Delete and define step. So delete the data set. If the data set is not there, we get a max is 8, set the max is to 0, and then define it. So here, I'm now creating with the 40 bytes. Okay. So now, name of the cluster, an important note. Throughout our JCLs, we use a cluster name only. We never use a dot data. We never use a dot index, and we never see what is there in the dot data dot index. Okay, system utilizes that. We never see what is there in the dot data, what is there in the dot index. We always see the cluster name. We always use the cluster name in the JCLs. Okay, coming to this volume serial. We know this volume serial. Okay, so for you, the best volume serial is the S761. Use that one only. Tracks are cylinders. Give primary comma secondary. So primary plus 122 extents of secondary space is created. Okay. And keys option. So length comma offset -1. There is an important interview question. What is the maximum key length? 255 bytes. It's 255 bytes. You can create a length of the key maximum 255 bytes. Yesterday I did not talk about this. Okay. And if you create a data set without a type of the data set, for example, indexed, we have created a indexed, non-indexed, then numbered. So yesterday I created a 3 types of data sets. One is a KSDS, one is a ESDS, one is a RRDS. But if you do not specify the indexed or non-indexed or numbered data set type, and if you do not give a free space, any of these, if you create only record size, okay, then the default data set is a KSDS file. The default data set is a KSDS file with keys 64, 0. 64, 0, one of the important interview question. What is the default data set if you do not specify the data set type? So it is a KSDS file with the keys option 64, 0. Yes, do you understand? Maximum key
Yes,
length
sir.
is 55 bytes.
Hi, sir.
Yeah. Maximum key length is 255 bytes.
Hello.
And default is 64. Yes, please.
Sir, sorry to disturb you. Can you please let me, some of the students are in queue.
Sure. I'll let them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Please. So 64, 0 is the default keys, and 255 bytes is a maximum key. The maximum key length is a 255 bytes. Default is a 64. Generally, we don't leave a keys option. Mostly we give a keys option for the KSDS file, but that's a theory question. If you do not specify the keys option for the KSDS file, what is the default keys? 64, 0. What is the maximum in the key? It's a 255 bytes. What is the default dataset type? KSDS.
KSD.
And coming to this, record size. So how do you say it's a fixed length or a variable length? Record size is having two parameters here: average record length, maximum record length. For example, it's a variable length file. So generally, in a COBOL flat file, we give a minimum and a maximum. Minimum is 1 byte and maximum is 1000 bytes. And what we give in the JSL is 1004. Yes or no? It varies from 1 to 1000 bytes depending on a working storage variable. But what we give in the JCL is a 1004. But it doesn't take 1004 bytes for every record. It takes if I write 100 bytes record, it takes 104 bytes. If I write 200 bytes record, it takes 204 bytes. So for every record, what we write, actual length plus 4 extra bytes. We know this already in the flat files. But coming to the KSDS file or any file, the variable length file. So ESDS files, one more important note here. ESDS files and KSDS files can be created with either FB or a VB. Both FB or a VB. Both of these files can be created either fixed length or variable length. But RRDS files always created with the FB. There is no concept of a variable length in the RRDS. Only FB. One more important note here. The difference between a KSDS and RRDS. KSDS can be a fixed length file or variable length file, but RRDS file is always a fixed length file. These are all important interview questions. Okay. So then how do you decide if it is an average and maximum? How do you decide? If it is a flat file, I give 1 to 1000 bytes. That's very simple, right? Maximum is 1000 bytes. So I give 1 to 1000, depending on a working storage variable. But in the JCL, in a VSAM, how do I decide average? I know maximum, but how do I decide average? For example, 500 is maximum. Okay. And 100 is minimum. What we do is, okay, so we calculate it like this. Minimum plus maximum divided by 2. Okay, something like this. No need to give exact calculation here. So I give some 300, 500 as a record size. 300, 500 as a record size. So how do you say a VSAM file is a fixed length or a variable length file? Important interview question. If average record length and maximum record length are different, then it is a
VB
file. If both are same, it's a fixed length file. An important note, maximum record length must be greater than or equal to average record length. It cannot be less than average record length. It cannot be less than average record length. Hope you understand this point. Okay, and let me talk about this. Cluster means a combination of data and index components. We always use a cluster name. We never use a .data.index in a JCLs. We never browse a .data.index in the in the file manager. And volume serial. So we take the best volume serials available. If you give a star here, it will take the best volume serial in the real application, but don't try to here. So here we give a S7, SYS1. And the tracks are cylinders. So what is the maximum space that is allocated? Primary plus 122 extents of a secondary. Keys. What is the maximum keys? Keys option is available only for the KSDS file because it's the only key file. RRDS file is also key file, but we don't supply a key. System will give a key. That's a record number, but we never give a key there. So what is the maximum key length? 255 bytes. So what is the keys option here? Key length, comma, offset -1. Mostly we give a offset, comma, length. For example, reference modification is there. I want to move at first 10 bytes of 20 bytes. So what we give? 1:10, correct? Move variable of 1, 10, 1:10 to variable 2. We remember that. Reference modification, we give offset, comma, length, offset colon length, and the sort fields 1, 10, character, A. So there also offset comma length. But in the keys option, we give length comma offset -1. Very important note. It is asked in many interviews. So length comma offset -1. Can we have the key in the middle of the file? Yes, we can. No need to have it in the starting of the file. One more interview question asked. So can we have the key in the middle of the file? Can we have a 2-3 fields combination as a key? Yes. See this one? The combination of these two fields is a key. Now the question is, can we have the two different fields combining a key? Can we have in a different locations? For example, batch number is here and roll number is somewhere in the middle, in the end. Can we have this? Can we create like this?
Yes, sir.
No, we cannot create it because we give a length comma offset -1. It should be at one place. It may be having a multiple fields, but it should be in one place. It may be starting or middle of the file or maybe end of the file, anywhere. It can be continuous. If 3 fields are combining a key, it should be continuous. But in DB2, the 3 fields can be stored in different positions. We can create a primary key with a combination of all the 3 fields from different locations of the table. Column 1, column 5, column 7 can be combined as a primary key in the DB2. But here in the VSAM files, the key must be at one place. All the fields that are combining a key must be continuous. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are all very, very important interview questions. What's the default key? 64,0. What is the maximum key length? 255 bytes. What is the on what files you can give a keys option? Only on a KSDS files. ESDS and RRDS and LDS files cannot be created with the keys option. If you use a keys, that means a KSDS. Hope you understand this point.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And coming to the record size, average comma maximum. How do you say it's a pixel length or variable length? If both are different, it's a variable length. If both are same, it's a pixel length. Then, can we create a variable length files on RRDS files?
No.
Control interval size. What is meant by control interval size? The data is stored in a control intervals and control areas in VSAM. Control intervals and control areas. In the yesterday's class, we have seen that. Control intervals, control areas. Control, what are the various components in the control interval? Records, free space, RDF, record definition field, control interval definition field, CIDF. Okay. If you do not provide a free space, after you load the records first time, if you are inserting any record in between, it will go for a split. First, it will try to split the CI, control interval. If there is no empty CI in the same CA, first CA will split, control area will split into 2 CAs by moving half of the CIs in from this CA to another new CA. Then it will have a empty CI available in the same CA. Then CA will split. Okay. There is no concept of a free space in the ESDS files and RRDS files because we cannot insert records in between existing records. Can we insert records in a ESDS file in between existing records? Guys, please let me know. Can we insert a new record in a flat file in between?
No, sir.
In an IO mode, we cannot write a record in a flat file. In an IO mode, we cannot write a record in the ESDS files. No, we cannot insert new records. That's why free space is not required. We add the records, but at the end of the file. For that, existing CS will not be split. The data will be appended in the last CA. Assume there are 10 rooms. Okay, 5 rooms of data is already stored. Now, new data is coming. It will go to the 6th room because it is appending the data in the end of the file. But in RRDS files, we can insert new new records, but in the empty slots only. We cannot insert a new records. We cannot insert a new records. Okay. When there is no empty slot. If there is an empty slot, we can insert a new record. Okay. So control interval size. The minimum is 512. And what is the maximum? 32768. This is also important interval question. Control interval size. Minimum of 512 and maximum is 32760, and it should be n multiplied by 512. You can give 512, 1024, or 512 multiplied by 3. Okay, so 1536 or 2048, like this. Generally, we give even numbers, not odd numbers. Okay, so whatever it is, we can give 512, 1024, or 2048, 4096, anything you can give it. Multiples of 512 up to 32768. Yes, are you okay with this? I mean, control interval size,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes, sir.
make sure the control sign interval size is a bigger than record size. Let me tell you, if my record size is 1500 bytes, okay, but my control interval size is 1024. So what is there in the? I'll tell you here. Control interval. We have a tutorials point here. Okay, somewhere. Yeah. So control. 1 second. I'm talking about. Yeah. If you have 1500 as a record size, but the control interval size is 1024. That means single record is not fit in a single control interval. Here, I'm storing multiple records in the control interval because record length is smaller than control interval size. Okay. If the record size is bigger than the control interval, can we store a single record in the control interval? No. Now, one record will go into the two control intervals. Say, for example, 1024, we have a 2048, two control intervals. My record started in the first control interval and continued to the second control interval. So, middle of the second control interval. It is ended at the middle of the second control interval. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In that case, the next record will not be continued in the middle of the control interval. It will occupy the fresh control interval. That means we are wasting the memory, correct? Out of
Yes, sir.
1024 plus 1024 is a 2048, but my record length is 1500. So it will continue to the next control interval, and the leftover memory of the control interval cannot be utilized for the next record. So my next record is going to start with the third control interval. That means it is going to waste the memory. That's why better always go with a bigger control interval size than record size. Otherwise, it is called a spanned records. We have to give a spanned. If it is like this, we have to give a spanned record. Okay, we have to use the keyword expand. Then only you can create it. That means my record is spanning to the next control interval. So generally, we don't create a files like this. We always create a control interval size bigger than record size. I hope you understand this. You know,
Yes, sir.
unfortunately, okay, all these questions are asked in the interview, but we never create a VSAM file in the applications. I attended such an interview. They asked me a single question. Have you created a VSAM file in your application? That was a question. I told him I didn't create a new Visam file. I didn't get a chance to create a new Visam file, but I created a file which must be there, but someone has deleted it. Someone has deleted it in the test environment. So that file was required to me, right? Then I created it using a production attributes. I know how to create a file, but I didn't get a chance to create a new Visam file. But there must be a test file to test my job, my program. But the test file was deleted by someone. So I created the test file by giving a production file attributes. We call it as a model data set. Model data set. That was the only question asked. I got selected. And he gave me appreciation for that answer because he had been asking the same question for many people. No one has given such an answer. Okay, so you should have a lot of clarity when I'm giving an answer. So normally we don't get a chance to create a new Visam files in the applications. Nothing but a database. New Visam file means new. See, I told you in a DB2, we don't get a chance to create a new table. We don't get a chance. All the tables are all, but we get a chance to add extra column to the existing table for a new business requirement. Let's go to mute. Okay, so, but unfortunately, many questions are asked in the interview from this defined cluster. We have to be prepared for that. Are you okay with this?
Yes, sir.
Please go through the define and try to write down n number of questions on this. Every point is a question here. Okay. Then coming to the control interval size, it's a minimum 512 and maximum 32768. And coming to the share options, yeah, free space, sorry for that, free space. This is a most important point in the entire, okay, Visam cluster definition. What is a free space? The space that is reserved for the future insertions. When you're loading the data for the first time, for example, I loaded a KSDS file, okay, 10,000 records. It is going to leave 20% of the free space in each control interval, okay, each control interval, and 20 more percent on each control area. Say, for example, there is a room of 10 by 10. So each row is taking a 10 chairs, and each room is taking a 10 rows. So what is the total number of chairs?
100, sir.
100.
Hundreds.
100. If you leave a 20%, 20, 20, you know what is the space occupied for the initial load? Okay. So 20, 20 means every row is left with the 2 chairs are not filled. Only 8 chairs are filled in every row when I'm loading the data for the first time. When I'm allowing you to sit in a chairs, only, okay, 8 chairs are filled in each row, and 2 rows are left as a spaces in each room, because this is 20. CI, nothing but a row. CA, nothing but a room. So 20 means, so every 8 rows are filled with 8 chairs. 8 rows are filled with 8 chairs. 2 are left over for future usage, and 2 rows are not filled with any, okay, data. Okay, that means only out of 100 records or 100 people or 100 records, only 64 records are stored. Right or not? Guys, simple calculation. 20% of 100 means 80. 20% of 80 means? That means 20%. Remove the 20% of 100,
64.
80. And remove the 20% from 80.
64.
60.
Exactly. So when I'm loading the data for the first time into a KSDS file, okay, it is going to occupy only 64%. The rest of the 36% is reserved for the future usage to avoid the splits. Even though you give us free space, at certain point of time, split is going to happen. For example, there are 2 chairs or 2 records are left over for a future usage, but I'm inserting first record, it doesn't go for a split. When I'm inserting a second record in the keys are in the same row, it doesn't go for a split. When I'm inserting a third record, which has to be inserted in the same row, in that case, it will go for a split. Even though I give a free space, it will go for a split. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But number of splits are reduced. So that's the reason we give a 2020 or 10, 20, something like this. If we do not give a free space, then what happens? The rows and that means the CI and CA are completely filled with the data for the first time when you are loading the data. If at all you are inserting any record, if it has to be inserted in the existing CI or CA, it will go for a split. I hope you understand.
Yes, sir.
Guys, please go to mute. Okay, those who doesn't have any disturbance, speak. Okay, if someone is crying, okay, someone is shouting, please don't turn on your mic. Then, what is the default free space? 0, 0. If you do not give a free space, it's a 0, 0. Free space is a 0, 0. Do we need a free space in a ESDS and RRDS files?
No, sir.
Not required, because we cannot insert records in between. New records cannot be inserted in between. ESDS, there is no concept of insert. At least RRDS we can insert, but if there is an empty slot. There was a record which got deleted. Now I'm inserting record with the same record number. I can insert, but I cannot insert a new record. Okay, I can insert a record on an empty slot with the same record number. So now, so if you give 100, 100, there is an interview question. Just 100. We never give it. It's a hypothetical interview question. If you give 100, 100, we never give it. If you give 100, 100, what happens? Only one record is stored. Okay, in entire CA control area. First control interval of a control area is stored one record. Then the next record is stored in the next CA. The next record is stored in the next CA. So if you load 1,000 records, it takes 1,000 CAs. Sometimes CA may be a track, sometimes CA may be a cylinder. So admin will decide it, tracks or cylinders. Control area is defined either tracks or cylinders. We never create it. So it is already defined in the system. Okay, that means if you load 1,000 records, it takes 1,000 tracks. That means you are reserving most of the space for the future usage. At this moment, you are not utilizing it. Is it correct?
No.
So that's why we never give us free space 100, 100. But we can, as a theory, we can give it. Just for an experiment, we can give it. But practically, we don't give it.
Sir, is there any concept to delete the empty slot in RRDS?
No. If you delete a record, it will get empty slot. We cannot delete empty slot. That memory cannot be utilized. For example, there are 1,000 records loaded in the RRDS file, and you deleted 500 records. But it occupies 1,000 records memory only.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine. Then free space is completed and share option. Yeah, this is one of the important topic. Yeah, I when I attended interview without a subject knowledge, at that time they asked me this question. I was not able to answer it. It's long back because I didn't have a complete information about it. So now assume there are two systems. One second, let me go to the paint. Okay, so we have two systems. Okay, now we have a CACS and TSO and one more CACS. So two CACS regions and one TSO. Here also two CACS regions and one TSO region. It looks like a devil.
Omelette, sir.
What's that?
Looks like omelette.
Omelette, like a devil looking upwards. No problem. So here two CACS regions, CACS1, CACS2 and TSO. Here also CACS1, CACS2. Okay, and this is a system 1. Okay, system 1 and this is a system 2. Okay, we have two systems. Okay, there are two systems, system 1, system 2. We have a CSS1, CSS2 and TSO. So two CSS regions and one TSO region, and here also same. So what is this share option? That means how we are going to share this file in a cross region. A cross region means CSS regions and TSO region, nothing but a cross region in under system. And a cross system, how you're going to use a VSAM file. For example, there is a VSAM file. Okay. So how are you going to use the VSAM file under a cross region and a cross system? Okay. Under a cross systems, how are you going to share it? Generally, we don't use a VSAM file in the cross system. That's a ruled out. Leave it. And we use only in the cross region of a system. Cross region of a system. We never use on a cross system applications. Okay. Now, let's come back here. We have a share options like this. Share options, cross region, comma, system. Like how we have a message level parameters. System, what is that? Message level parameters. Two parameters are the statements and messages. Message level, statements and messages. There we have a 0, 1 to 0, 1. Do you remember?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, here we have a 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we have a 3 and 4 only. What is meant by 1? Leave about the cross system. Let's leave about the cross system, whatever the options that is given. Leave about the cross system. Just look into the cross region. And if you do not give a share options, if you forget to give a share options while creating a data set, the default share option is a 1, 3. And the best one is a share options 2, 3. Okay. The message level parameters, the default is a 1, 1. Best is also 1, 1. That's why we can leave it. I told you this. Best one is 1, 1. And default is also 1, 1. That's why we don't give the message level parameters for most of the job cards. But here, default is not the best here. Best is a 2, 3. So let's see what is 1. 1 means, okay. Assume I'm using a VSAM file in all the three regions. In all the three regions, if I give 1, While creating a data set, we give a 1 in the cross region. Okay. That means this VSAM file can be used in the read mode in all the 3 regions. Multiple reads. Okay. Multiple reads means reads in a multiple regions. Multiple or single write. That means if you are reading it, only you're reading it, you're not updating it or deleting or inserting it. If you're reading it, then you can read in all the regions. But if you're updating, you can update in only one region. You cannot at least read that in the other regions. If you're updating in a CSS1, you cannot read in a CSS2, you cannot read it in a TS4. So if you are using in an update mode, you can use it only in one region. If you are using in a read mode, you can use in all the regions. So that means multiple reads or single write. Multiple reads or single write. In a multiple regions, you can read it, or in a single region, you can write it. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
For example, in a CSS region, okay, I'm inserting a record. Okay. If I want to see that in the TSO, I want to browse it, whether the record is inserted or not in the, for example, I'm executing a transaction in the CSS environment to insert a record in the VSAM file. To insert a record in the VSAM file. Okay. Once it is inserted, I want to see whether the record is inserted or not in the TSO using a file manager. If I try to browse it, it doesn't open the file because it will say VSAM open is failed. The reason is it's a 1,3. It's already open in the edit mode in the CSS region. That's why I cannot browse it in the TSO. If I want to browse it, first I need to close the file in the CSS region. Close and disable the file in the CSS region. Then only we can open that in the TSO region. I hope you understand.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
If you use that in the read mode in the TSS region, you can also use it in the TSO region. Okay. Next. Option 2 means multiple reads and single write. Means you can read in all the regions, but you can write only in the one region. Only in one region. For example, in CSS1, I am writing it in the edit mode, but I can also read it in the CSS2 and TSO. So when I'm using that in the one region in edit mode, one region in edit mode, at least I can read in the other regions. I cannot edit in the other regions, but I can also, at least I can read that in the other regions. So now take the similar requirement, earlier requirement. So assume that I'm inserting a record in a CSS1 using a transaction, and at least I can browse it from the TSO, and at least I can browse it from the CSS2. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, and this is the best one in the cross region. Cross system, we never worry about it. Just we give a 3. That's all. 3. Okay. 3 means it is not correct. Don't give this. We never give the 3. We never give a 3. We always give a 2,3. Okay. We never give a 3,3. Multiple reads and multiple writes. Multiple writes. That means here I can write it. Here also I can write it. Here also I can write it. Here I can read it in all the regions. But VSAM does not enforce any integrity, data integrity. You're inserting a record here, okay, and you're also inserting the same record here. There may be a contention. You're inserting a record here at the time, okay, you're updating the same. For example, you're deleting a record here at the same time you're updating a record here. So VSAM does not enforce any integrity. Okay. So here it's a read integrity. Here it's integrity. Here no integrity. That means I'm sure that, okay, I'm getting a perfect data here because multiple reads or a single write. When I'm reading it, I'm sure that no one is updating it. No one is writing it. Correct or not?
Yes, sir.
So that means read integrity. I'm getting a perfect data. No one is updating it. I'm sure about it. I'll get the perfect data. But here, when I'm updating it, I'm sure that no one is updating it. But when I'm reading it, I can't say that no one is updating there. I'm reading a record in my TSO, and the same record is being updated in the CSS. We can't say it's not updated. So if you want to get the correct data, you need to lock and read it. You need to lock and read it. So here we get only write integrity. I'm sure that no one is updating it. But when I'm reading it, I can't say no one is updating it. But here, when I'm updating or reading it, I can't say no one is updating. No one is updating. So in that case, no integrity at all. So we have to achieve the integrity. VSAM does not enforce the integrity. Integrity means, yes, the data is correct. Saying that, yes, the data is correct. Enforcing the data is correct. It's called integrity. Yes, I'm getting the correct data. Saying that is a integrity. Okay. So there is no integrity. So we have to lock and read it. We have to lock and write it. Explicitly, we have to lock and read it. Explicitly, we have to lock and write it in the option 3. Do you understand now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And 4, almost the same as a 3, but after every, okay, but after every IO operation, IO operation, IO buffers are flushed. So we never go with the 4, and that means if I'm inserting a record, if I'm updating a record, the IO buffers, actually the data is stored in the buffer area, and after some time it is going to be written into the physical file. But here, for every IO operation, the IO buffers are flushed. Okay, so leave it. But we give either 1, 3. Option 3 is mandatory here. The 3 or 4 we have to give it. First of all, we don't use the VSAM file in the cross system. We always use it in a cross region. Okay, so we need to worry about either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 in the cross region. So we always give either 3. Mostly we give 3 here. So that's the reason share option 1, 3, share option 2, 3 is a recommended. And one of these two are used. Default is a 1, 3, and recommended is a 2, 3. We never go for 3, 3. We never go for 4, 3. Because if you use the 3, 3, every time you read it, every time you write it, you have to lock and read like this. Expensive process. That's why we mostly use the share options 2, 3. 2, 3. Are you clear with this? Guys, all of you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
One of the important point in the interview, and mostly real applications are using a share option 2, 3. 2 comma 3 is the best option that is used in the applications. Option 3 and 4 in the cross system is same. So if you use a 3 in the cross system, okay, cross system, VSAM does not enforce any integrity. It is your responsibility to lock and read it, to lock and write it. That's all. So we never use in the cross system applications. Two systems are there which are using the same VSAM file. We never use it like this. Mostly the VSAM files are used in a single system, in a cross regions. So what is the default share option?
2, 3.
1 comma 3. And what is the best one? 2 comma 3. Okay. We'll see how to lock and read it and how to lock and write it a little later in the application programs. Yeah, that's all about the options here. So indexed for KSTS. Is it mandatory to give index? No, because when I say free space, when I say keys option, default is a KSTS, correct? Nothing but a KSTS. That's why indexed is not a mandatory. Keys option is used, FSPC is used. That means indirectly we are saying it is a KSTS file. That's why even indexed is also not required. But do we need a span here for this 40 and 1024? Record length is 40 bytes. My control interval size is 1024. Do we need a span here?
No, sir.
Not required. Let me create the file. So delete and define. Delete it and set max is 0 and define. In case if the file is not there to delete, it will generate an 8 written code 8, which is not correct. That's why we set the max to 0 after a delete. Okay. I also use the same delete and define for RRDS and ESDS. Yesterday I created all these with the record length 100 bytes. See, sorry for that. 40, comma 40. 40, comma 40. Okay, now I'm. What do we get? Yeah, 0 only. The third one. One second, please. Hold on. I'll just come back. Guys, please take 10 minutes of break.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.